Chapter 731, The Militant Warrior, Zhu Yu. A militant warrior. Jian Wushuang was surprised. Being a militant warrior himself, he had never seen any other militant warriors during his dozens of years of adventure in the boundless wilds. Wild beasts were the only things that he had encountered. That was because the land was so vast and the militant warriors on it were so few, and has broken through to the 5th level of the heaven level test. Jian Wushuang wore a faint smile. When he left the 8th tribe, he had also broken through to that level. "Let's go," he said to Jiyu Lan, and then headed to the underground palace with him. Soon after, they arrived there and found many familiar faces among the crowd that was gathered, such as Jiyu Changfeng, Jiyu Yang, and Elder Ying. Jian Wushuang. An uproar broke out among the crowd when they saw Jian Wushuang appear. Jiyu Changfeng hurriedly walked up to him and said, "Jian Wushuang, you're back from your adventure?" "Yes." Jian Wushuang nodded and greeted those old friends. "Jian Wushuang, look carefully at that man," Jiyu Yang said to him with a smile while pointing at a man who was taking the heaven level test on the battlefield. "He is named Zhu Yu, a militant warrior like you, and has just come back from the boundless wilds not long ago." Jian Wushuang immediately looked toward where Jiyu Yang pointed. There, he saw an elegant man dressed in a loose golden robe with his chest exposed in the air. The man held a long red spear in his hand, and from the looks of it, it was an eternal weapon. Though the power of eternal weapons could not be released fully in the heaven level test, this man still forced the 100 puppet fighters surrounding him into a corner with his spear. He is indeed excellent in utilizing power. While looking at the man, Jian Wushuang's became fired up. At that point, he could tell that the man was a real expert who was good at fighting. This man is challenging the 6th level of the heaven level test, facing 100 puppet fighters, who can launch extremely powerful attacks and overpower all the clansmen here, but still, he is utterly routing them. Every time he strikes out, in a seemingly casual way, he can catch the floor of his opponent's joint attack and break them. Those puppet fighters are now forced to keep busy defending themselves. This is a man of great power. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands while secretly praising him. He continued watching for a while before the man ended the fight by defeating all the puppet fighters. The man passed the 6th level of the heaven level test. Bravo! It's so scary that he did it. Passing the 6th level of the heaven level test. His fighting skill is really impressive. Is this what a militant warrior can do? The palace was inundated with the onlookers' discussions. Jiyu Changfeng held his fists tightly and secretly thought with excitement. He is too damn powerful. Among the crowd, only Jian Wushuang still maintained a calm demeanor. Right then, he heard Elder Ying's voice say, "Jian Wushuang, follow me. I want to introduce you to Zhu Yu." "Okay." He nodded and followed her. Then, he was led to where Zhu Yu had just walked down to after finishing his test. "Zhu Yu, please allow me to introduce this man to you. He is called Jian Wushuang, a militant warrior just like you," Elder Ying said to Zhu Yu. "Really?" The man looked at Jian Wushuang with surprise in his eyes. "You're a militant warrior too?" "Yes." Jian Wushuang nodded to him. "I can see it now." The man looked Jian Wushuang up and down before continuing. "I can feel the aura of a real expert coming from you. Something you can get only through suffering. But, it's a pity that you have not awoken your bloodline and are not a 1-star ancient god yet." The man sighed and there was disappointment in his eyes. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang retorted confidently, "It's true that I haven't awoken my bloodline, but it doesn't mean that you can overpower me." "Is that so?" Zhu Yu shot him an amazed glance. At this, Elder Ying, Jiyu Yang, and the others all looked at Jian Wushuang with strange expressions. They had witnessed how powerful Zhu Yu was just now and, based on his fighting skill and that he had awoken his bloodline, which had a high density, they believed that he had to be more powerful than they had seen. Thus, they were really surprised upon hearing Jian Wushuang say that Zhu Yu could not overpower him. Interesting. Zhu Yu wore a big smile and said, "I had adventured in the boundless wilds for many years, and during that time, I met 2 extremely powerful opponents, who were militant warriors too. And now, here you are, the 3rd militant warrior. I don't know why you're so confident, but since we're here as two militant warriors, why don't we have a fight? You're right. It's hard to meet a militant warrior, and it would be a great pity if we don't fight today. Jian Wushuang accepted his invitation. Great. In order to make it fair, I won't transform into an ancient god during the fight, Zhu Yu answered happily. Jian Wushuang smiled while replying, you might not want to transform, but I'll force you to. Well. Zhu Yu knit his brows hard, and there was a battle intent rising in his eyes. Jian Wushuang had the same expression. Militant warriors were called so because they loved to fight. They got bored with the leisure and dull life in the clan, so they went to the boundless wilds for adventure. Given that there were not many militant warriors even in the whole ancient god clan, they could rarely battle each other. That was why immediately after Jian Wushuang and Zhu Yu met, their battle intent became aroused. The onlookers were not surprised that these two were going to fight each other. On the contrary, they were looking forward to seeing that. A fight between two militant warriors. Who do you think is more powerful between them? I think Zhu Yu is. After all, he has awoken his bloodline, and we all have learned about his power from the test. He has passed the 6th level of the Heaven level test, while Jian Wushuang had only passed the 5th level before he left. I'd agree with you under the condition of Zhu Yu transforming into an ancient god during the fight. But, you just heard him say that he won't. In that case, I think Jian Wushuang stands a chance to win. He passed the 5th level 70 years ago, so he's not weak, and he might be able to pass the 6th level now. Chapter 732, Fighting Zhu Yu. In a vast open space, Jian Wushuang and Zhu Yu stood facing each other, hundreds of feet apart. Around them were the onlookers from the 8th tribe. The 3rd militant warrior I've met. Zhu Yu licked his lips and a sliver of light escaped his eyes. Let me test how much I've progressed during those 80 years through you, a militant warrior who has awoken his bloodline. Jian Wushuang's eyes were burning with fighting desire. As their eyes met in the air, there seemed to be a sparkle between them. The next moment, Zhu Yu suddenly disappeared from the sight of the many onlookers, and when he was seen again, he had crossed hundreds of feet to arrive in front of Jian Wushuang. His long red spear struck out right at him. Carrying formidable power, once the spear caught its target, it could pierce through him. However, seeing the spear approaching him, Jian Wushuang did not move to dodge it but stood there to watch it go through his body. But no blood came out, as if the spear had gone through something insubstantial. It's his residual shadow, someone cried out. The onlookers were wide-eyed in amazement. The very next moment, Zhu Yu suddenly spun his head to look to the side. There, he saw a ghost-like figure appear out of thin air that came slashing toward him. The blow seemed simple, even a child could make one more complex than that. Even so, Zhu Yu's eyes narrowed at the sight of it. Good boy. He simplified the move but did not weaken its power. This boy is really excellent at swordsmanship. Zhu Yu became serious. His spear swept out and collided with Jian Wushuang's sword. Clang! Zhu Yu heard a deep sound and felt an overwhelming power from the sword. He knew that he had been correct, that the blow was not as simple as it looked. And before he could make his next move, countless sword lights radiated from where the weapons met and flew toward him. Thousands of moves derived from one move. Ha ha, interesting. However, seeing this, Zhu Yu laughed. He then waved his spear again, and with this single move, countless spear shadows rushed through the air toward the sword light. Clang! 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 A series of sounds of metal on metal rang out, and in just a few breaths, they echoed 100 times. From those sounds, the onlookers could tell that the two had exchanged 100 moves. They are so fast. They are fighting at a terrifying pace. They are moving so fast that I can barely see how they are attacking. The onlookers were astonished by this scene. Even someone as strong as Jiyu Yang, a 2-star ancient god, could not help being amazed. He was impressed by the fighting skills of both Jian Wushuang and Zhu Yu. On the battlefield, sometimes both Jian Wushuang and Zhu Yu tried to outspeed each other, sometimes they fought with pure power, and sometimes with fighting skillfully demonstrating what they had. For a long time, they were locked in a close battle. I've tried my best to battle him aside from transforming into an ancient god, but I still can't gain the upper hand. Zhu Yu was shocked inside. As for Jian Wushuang, he looked grave. Though he has used all his fighting skills, he has yet to exert all his power and transform into an ancient god. It looks like I have to use some methods to force him to do that. Having made up his mind, Jian Wushuang changed his strategy. With a quiver of his body, a formidable power surged out from his sword heart. Level 2 of the sword heart turned out to be more powerful than level 1. He had only exerted 3/10 of the power of the sword heart, but it still improved his attacking force greatly. The others could see that Jian Wushuang's attacks suddenly had become fiercer than before, along with a great increase in speed. Whoosh! 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 Jian Wushuang made 3 strikes in succession, each of them looking simple yet exquisite. Under such attacks, Zhu Yu drew back quickly. After he finally regained his balance, he had a grave expression on his face. Without awaking his bloodline, this boy can still exert the power of a 1-star silver-armored ancient god. What's more, he is as good at fighting as I am, but most of all, his swordsmanship is so excellent. Zhu Yu gasped in admiration. He's simplified every one of his moves, which look simple yet are powerful. I'm no match for him in view of this. In order to defeat him, I'll have to transform into an ancient god, Zhu Yu muttered. The next moment, he growled in an undertone, and immediately the aura of his bloodline arose and surrounded him. His body began to bulge to over 10 meters in height. His whole body was covered by a golden light. It gleamed brightly under the sparkling demons hanging over the palace. He transformed into a gold-armored ancient god. Jian Wushuang was startled. Gold-armored ancient gods were the most powerful ones among all 3 of the bloodlines. Jian Wushuang had met a gold-armored ancient god before when he was adventuring in the outer layer of the Eternal Zone. He had witnessed how that god had so easily killed a superior divine realm expert like killing a chick. Though, at that time, the god had just awoken his bloodline and had not reached his peak. Zhu Yu, being a militant warrior in addition to being a gold-armored ancient god, must be much more powerful than the one that I met. Jian Wushuang thought. Soon afterward, he was proved to be correct. Boom! After transforming into a gold-armored ancient god, Zhu Yu stomped hard on the ground, causing the void to shake. He then went up to Jian Wushuang and thrust his 10-meter-long spear at him. Chapter 733, The Baptismal Pool. The spear seemed to cut the void open, which caused a huge vortex in the air. At the center of the vortex, there was a streak of terrifying red light, which turned out to be the spear itself. It's so powerful! The onlookers were amazed by the scene. Many of them could tell that Zhu Yu's strike was a 2-star level. A 2-star ancient god was equivalent to a human warrior in the Eternal Realm. That was to say, that strike reached the level of the Eternal Realm. Facing the attack, Jian Wushuang looked grave. His sword heart quivered violently in the sea of consciousness, and its power reached its peak in an instant. He held the Emperor's sword up and struck out. Crash! Countless sword lights flew outward. The sky darkened. The surroundings began shaking. This move that Jian Wushuang just made was called Netherworld. He created it based on his meditation on sword principle during the last 80 years. Also, it was his most powerful technique, which had reached level 6 of the secret skill. In the next moment, the sword and the spear collided. There was no booming sound, as others had expected, but a squeezing sound of power-crushing power. Suddenly, an overwhelming force swept over the surroundings from where the weapons met. Whoosh! Whoosh! Jian Wushuang and Zhu Yu were thrown backward quickly. The onlookers, who had been watching the fight from far away, were also affected by the force, but luckily, they had many experts among them to shield them from it. After the two had regained their balance, they looked at each other closely, hundreds of feet apart. Jian Wushuang, how about we end this fight in a draw? Zhu Yu suddenly asked him. That's exactly what I was thinking. Jian Wushuang nodded. In fact, from the very beginning, he had intended to make it a friendly competition, as well as test how much he had progressed during those years. Therefore, there was no need to battle it out. Most importantly, he was not sure that he could defeat Ju Yu. I've displayed most of my skills, including the most powerful one, but still I haven't defeated him yet. Though I have some hidden cards to use, I believe that he does as well. Jian Wushuang became lost in thought. Being a gold-armored ancient god and a militant warrior, he must have much more than he's shown. He clearly has yet to fully use his power. Jian Wushuang came to that conclusion because he knew very well that a gold-armored ancient god could be much more powerful than a divine realm expert, and in addition to that, Ju probably had mastered the Star River secret skill to a high level. If he fights with all his power, he can be as powerful as an eternal realm expert. I know that, even though he is just a one-star ancient god now. As for me, I'm only able to battle the weakest eternal realm experts. As those thoughts ran through Jian Wushuang's mind, he suddenly heard Ju Yu call his name. That man looked at him and spoke with a smile. I really admire your power. You even haven't awoken your bloodline, and yet, you impressed all of us. I believe that once you awaken it, your power will reach a new level. On hearing this, Jian Wushuang smiled. It was a pity that he had not awoken his bloodline and was still in the skyscraping realm. However, as long as he could get baptized to awaken his bloodline, he would be able to improve his power by several levels. In fact, I came back for the baptism. I want to awaken my bloodline. Jian Wushuang finally spoke. In that case, then good luck to you. I hope that I can meet you someday in the future, and at that time, let's have a showdown, said Ju Yu. Sure. Jian Wushuang smiled again, but he knew that he would not get the chance to meet this man again. He would have to go back to the Firmament territory soon. Ju Yu left the 8th tribe without staying any longer while Jian Wushuang remained there. Jian Wushuang, the baptism will take place in 2 months. Until then, you can stay here and wait for it, Elder Ying said to Jian Wushuang. Okay, thanks. Jian Wushuang nodded. He could afford to wait 2 more months. Time quickly flew by. Finally, the annual baptism arrived. Because the baptism was held every year, there were not many people left in each clan to be baptized. This time, Jian Wushuang only had a dozen companions with him. They were led by Elder Ying to a huge valley. In the center of the valley was a round pool, larger than 10 meters in diameter. The water in it smelled strange. Beside the pool, some people were throwing a large number of leaves and plants into it. Blub, blub. Taking a closer look, they saw that the water was boiling. This pool is where the people of our ancient god clan get baptized. We call it the baptismal pool. Elder Ying's voice was loud and clear. Everyone in our clan has a chance to be baptized in this pool. Most people can awaken their bloodlines and become ancient gods, while a few will fail to do so because their bloodlines are too thin. Please wait here for a moment. After saying all that, Elder Ying walked toward the pool. This is the baptismal pool. The dozen people who were going to be baptized all intently stared at the pool with looks of anticipation. Jian Wushuang was among them. The baptismal pool, something that all the sects in the Firmament territory want to obtain. His eyes sparkled. The experts of the sects in the Firmament territory all hoped that one day they could be baptized in the pool to awaken their bloodline as an ancient god. That was why every time the Eternal Zone was open, those Eternal Realm experts would crazily try to seize the baptismal pools from the ancient god clan. Luckily, those pools were heavily guarded, so even if those experts joined hands to seize one, there was little prospect of them succeeding. And besides that, even if they were lucky enough to succeed, few of them could become ancient gods all the same. Chapter 734, The Ancient God Baptism. No matter how powerful the experts in the Firmament territory are, they are, after all, human beings without any ancient god bloodline. Even if they could get some from an ancient god's essence blood, that would not be enough to enable them to be an ancient god. Maybe some of them do have the greatest luck to become one, but it would most probably be just a copper-armored ancient god, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Right then, Elder Ying went back over to them. Listen, when you go into that pool later, try to absorb as much of the water as you can. In that way, your bloodline is more likely to be awoken and it will have a higher level, she said. Understood. The clansmen waiting to be baptized nodded. Elder Ying then added, All right. The baptismal pools are ready. Now, choose one of them to begin your baptism. She turned to Jian Wushuang and continued, Jian Wushuang, follow me. Jian Wushuang nodded and followed her to one of the baptismal pools. As for the others, they started running to the other pools. Because there were so many such kinds of pools, they could occupy one alone without disturbing anyone else. When they got into the water, there seemed to be a growl from beneath them that rocked their hearts. At the same time, the green steam floating above the surface began flowing into their bodies. They all closed their eyes while absorbing the steam. Elder Ying led Jian Wushuang to a pool that was larger than other ones. This pool is only for you. Different from the other pools, it's larger, contains more water, and most of all, there is an ancient god gem at the bottom, she said to him. Ancient god gem. Jian Wushuang was surprised. He had never heard of that before. Then, he listened as the elder explained. The ancient god gems are part of our ancient god's relics, and each one of the gems preserves some energy of the god's flesh. They are very helpful for awakening bloodlines. Up until now, few in our clan have possessed them. Generally, only those who have great potential or high-density bloodlines are qualified to have one. Since you satisfy both conditions as well as being a militant warrior, I ask them to give you one. Thank you, Elder Ying. Jian Wushuang expressed his gratitude. You're welcome. But, if you really want to thank me, then awaken a bloodline of a gold-armored ancient god, said Elder Ying. Gold-armored ancient god. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and clenched his hands. Now, get in the pool and remember to absorb as much water as you can. In the end, Elder Ying urged him. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded and looked at the pool. Staring at the steam above the water and the dazzling ripples, he took a deep breath before diving into it like a shooting star. The green steam flowed around the pool like a creeping snake. It feels special. The moment he got into the water, he felt the steam completely surround him. He felt as if he had again become a fetus in his mother's womb, as the magic and gentle power flowed into every part of his body. It gave him the pleasurable feeling of being limp and numb. It feels so good, Jian Wushuang said to himself as he tried hard to feel the energy flowing into his body, from his skin to his muscles, meridians, even into his bones. He felt as if his every cell was breathing. He was experiencing a change inside and out. With eyes closed, he was immersed in it. Blub, blub. The water kept boiling. The people in other pools were experiencing the same things as Jian Wushuang, and around the pools, many onlookers from the 8th tribe gathered with Elder Ying as their leader. Their eyes fixed on the men in the water while they chatted with each other. Each of those 13 people has a good bloodline. I think that most of them can succeed in awakening their bloodlines. Of course they all can. The point is what kind of bloodlines they can awaken. If it turns out that they are all only able to become copper-armored ancient gods, that will be quite bad. I don't think that will happen. Judging by the density of their bloodlines, 2 of them will probably become silver-armored ancient gods. Besides, Jian Wushuang is certainly to become a silver-armored ancient god as well, maybe even a gold-armored ancient god. I agree. I also heard that Elder Ying has given him an ancient god gem. Let's wait and see how long he can stay in the water. If he can make it to a whole day or even 2 days, he is very likely to become a gold-armored ancient god. The onlookers were full of anticipation. A half-day passed. Howl! A loud roar came out from one of the pools, echoing throughout the valley. The onlookers immediately looked toward the pool where that sound had come from. There, they saw a young man with a face that was flushed red and veins that were throbbing along with his roars. He is going to transform into an ancient god. The onlookers were familiar with what was happening. A moment later, the young man's body began bulging to over 3 meters in height. His body gleamed with a bronze light, his muscle grew big, and he looked like a normal copper-armored ancient god. A copper-armored ancient god. The onlookers nodded with praise. After transforming into a copper-armored ancient god, the young man gradually restored his calm. A little while later, once he learned how to control the transformation, he turned back into a human being and walked out of the water. The man, however, did not look happy. He was frustrated because he had been the first one to walk out of the pool, which meant that he had absorbed the least energy and awakened the lowest bloodline. Chapter 735. The Metamorphosis. After the first man had awakened his bloodline, others began to get out of the pools one after another. In the blink of an eye, a whole day and night had passed. Among the 13 people who had come to be baptized, 12 of them had finished and walked out of the pools, and 2 of them had even become silver-armored demon gods. The only one left in the water was Jian Wushuang. "It has been 1 day and night," Elder Ying murmured, and a sliver of light escaped her eyes. So far, except for Jian Wushuang still being in the water, the longest time any of them stayed in water was 8 hours, and that man became a silver-armored demon god. Therefore, I think Jian Wushuang will awaken his bloodline as a gold-armored demon god. A 2-star ancient god gasped in admiration. As time continued on, Jian Wushuang was still immersed in the water, absorbing energy from it. The more he absorbed, the higher level his bloodline would be. The clansmen waited for him to come out at the edge of the valley. When it had been a whole day and night since Jian Wushuang went into the pool, those men felt quite surprised, and when it had been 2 days, they became thrilled. 2 days and nights, and 2/10 of the energy of the ancient god gem has been consumed. And he is still in the pool. In all the previous cases, all those who had stayed in the pool for 2 days and nights had become gold-armored ancient gods. It seems that he is not going to disappoint us. Gold-armored ancient god. Those onlookers were full of anticipation. That was because, as time passed by, there were fewer and fewer gold-armored ancient gods in their clan. Presently, there was a total of less than 100 gold-armored ancient gods in the 10 clans combined. In that big baptismal pool, Jian Wushuang was sitting with his legs crossed with the green energy flowing into his body continuously. At the same time, he was experiencing a change. Some time later, as the energy stopped flowing into him, he reached his limit. His blood and bones felt thoroughly alive. Excitement and jubilation filled his every cell. Ah! He suddenly let out a cry of pain, which seemed to come from deep inside him. His face twisted and his veins throbbed. He opened his mouth in difficulty and tried to say something, but except for his splitting roars, nothing else could be heard from him. His voice resounded loudly throughout the place and alarmed all the creatures there. The clansmen who were waiting for him at the edge of the valley had excited expressions on their faces upon hearing the roars. 7 days and 6 nights. Finally, he is going to reach his limit. He has consumed 3/4 of the energy of the ancient god gem. Those people looked toward Jian Wushuang with eyes full of astonishment and admiration. The more energy one absorbed from the water, the higher the level his bloodline would be. At the thought of Jian Wushuang absorbing energy in the pool for such a long time as 7 days and 6 nights, those clansmen could not help wondering what kind of bloodline Jian Wushuang would awaken. I bet he is going to awaken his bloodline as a gold-armored ancient god. What's more, it should be of the highest level. Few in our clan can be his match in view of their bloodline levels. Let's just wait. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Jian Wushuang. Then, with unbearable pain, Jian Wushuang's body started to bulge, just as the other clansmen had experienced in the baptismal pools. A moment later, his body grew visibly larger to 10 meters in height, and finally, to 15 meters. Along with that, his skin gradually turned golden, and his arms and legs grew larger. He looked exactly like a 15-meter tall gold-armored ancient god. He is so strong and tall. He became a gold-armored ancient god, 15 meters in height. The onlookers were a bit dumbstruck. For a man in the ancient god clan, how tall he could grow was determined by his bloodline. Normally, the copper-armored ancient gods were about 3 meters tall, while the silver-armored ancient gods were 5 to 6 meters in height. As for the gold-armored ancient gods, most of them were about 10 meters in height. Few were taller than that. Therefore, they were quite surprised by Jian Wushuang's height after he transformed. Suddenly, someone shouted, "Look, what's that?" The others immediately followed his eyes to look at Jian Wushuang's chest, and they were again dumbfounded. On Jian Wushuang's chest, they saw a pattern of a quadrangular star. The pattern represented Jian Wushuang's level as a 1-star ancient god, and what surprised the clansmen so much was the area that the pattern covered. The skin in that area was dark golden, a little different from the other areas of his skin. Dark golden. Dark golden. How is that possible? The clansmen could not believe their eyes. In their minds, each of the three kinds of ancient gods had skin that was just a single color. The gold-armored ancient gods were golden-skinned. Why is the skin on his chest different from the other parts of his body? What the hell is this? As the pain inside Jian Wushuang diminished, a sliver of golden light escaped his eyes. With him suddenly looking up, there was a pressing force sweeping away from him. Meanwhile, some images broke into his mind. They were the inherited memories of the ancient gods. The memories were about only one thing: the supreme skill of the ancient god clan, 3 fingers of the ancient god. Chapter 736. Against Nature, Twice the Deification Realm. The ancestor of the ancient god clan was a great ancient god. That god possessed incredible power and was highly gifted. Every time his descendants awoke their bloodlines, some of them might gain a part of his memory. Those lucky ones had to work at the memory by themselves and could not teach others their gains. As those descendants' bloodline got thinner and thinner, only a few of them could gain that ancestor's memory while awaking their bloodlines, and that was true even of the gold-armored ancient gods. Surprisingly, Jian Wushuang gained that memory. 3 fingers of the ancient god. Everything about that skill was now in his mind. It was one of the ancestors' most terrifying and unique skills. Only those clansmen with a high level of bloodline could master it. The 3 fingers meant 3 moves. According to what Jian Wushuang learned from the inherited memory, each move had amazing power. By displaying the first move, one could break realms. By displaying the second move, one could extinguish stars. By displaying the third move, one could shatter the world. Thus, the 3 moves were respectively named barrier breaking, star extinguishing, and world shattering. 3 fingers of the ancient god is a really fierce and terrifying skill. Jian Wushuang was amazed. He believed that later, after he mastered the skill, he would be able to exert extraordinary power. After a quick scan of that memory, he looked down at his body. Is this how I look after I transformed into an ancient god? Staring at his strongly built body, he found it even bigger than that of the gold-armored demon gods at over 10 meters high. He clenched his hand and could feel a mighty power gather in it. He could tell that this power was much more powerful than that of the sword heart. At the same time, he also noticed the pattern of a quadrangular star on his chest and the dark golden skin it covered. Dark golden? Jian Wushuang was a little confused. He never heard of any ancient god in the ancient god clan who had dark golden skin. However, it did not bother him that much, as it was just a small area. After some time in his transformed body, with a thought of his mind, his body began shrinking into a normal human being's. When he was back into his human body, he immediately felt that his spiritual power had been changed. I broke through a realm. He was not surprised at this. He had known for a long time ago that once those of the ancient god clan accepted their baptism and awoke their bloodlines, they would break through to the level of 1-star ancient god. That level was equal to the level of divine realm experts. Therefore, he had expected that he would reach the divine realm as well after he accepted the baptism, and in view of this, he had purposely adventured longer in order to linger in the skyscraping realm. After all, in the skyscraping realm, he could comprehend Tao and swordsmanship at a great speed, but once he broke through into the divine realm, that speed would be reduced. Now, he found himself in the divine realm. That meant an overall change to his body and an increase of his power, as well as a decrease of his comprehension speed. Actually, even though his talent in comprehension would be weakened, he would still be better at it than others. Now, I've come to the second step of the heaven-defying 4 steps deification realm. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. The 4 steps meant 4 realms: heaven-treading realm, deification realm, everlasting realm, and eternal supremo. Among them, the deification realm was equivalent to the divine realm of normal warriors. Given that the heavenly creation skill was so unique, after Jian Wushuang transformed into a human being, he did not hurry out of the pool but stayed in it trying to figure out the difference of the second step. Soon, he got the answer. He murmured with a horrified look, "After I'm in the deification realm, I can reach the peak of my power without limit." In the heaven-treading realm, he was best at comprehending. In the deification realm, he would get the most powerful battle strength. A T meant that as long as he was in the realm, he could improve his battle strength without limit. For example, if a divine realm expert could exchange some moves with an eternal realm expert and not get killed, he could be regarded as an exceptional genius among his peers, and if he could kill that expert, he would be regarded as a genius of geniuses. However, very few people in the eternal world could achieve that. The fact was that no matter how powerful a divine realm expert was of his level, he could only beat down some weak and average eternal realm experts. If he could do better than that, he would have broken through the eternal realm. However, the heavenly creation skill Jian Wushuang practiced was meant to break the recognized rules among the common people. There was no limit to his power when he was in the deification realm. With some opportunities, he could achieve what others could not. That was to say, he could be as powerful as the top eternal realm experts someday. In that realm, he could improve his power as much as he wanted. Heavenly creation skill is really incredible. Jian Wushuang let out a sigh of surprise. He raised his head and looked around, finding the clansmen all staring at him with dumbfounded looks. Jian Wushuang smiled at them, walked out the baptismal pool and came up to them. Chapter 737, Ancient God Palace. Elder Ying and other brothers, sorry to keep you waiting. Jian Wushuang apologized to them. Those who were waiting for him all stared at him with a strange look, especially Elder Ying. Her eyes flickered when she observed Jian Wushuang. His bloodline carries a strong oppressive force, a force much stronger than those of the other gold-armored ancient gods. The others looked a bit terrified while staring at Jian Wushuang. Once the people of the ancient god clan awoke their bloodline, it would emit an oppressive force from them, and the force of a gold-armored ancient god would be much stronger than that of a silver-armored ancient god. Therefore, even if the latter was stronger than the former, he would still be in awe of him, because his bloodline was of lower level. Those clansmen had been waiting for Jian Wushuang for so long that the first time he awoke his bloodline, they immediately felt it and were shocked. The oppressive force they felt from him was fiercer than what they felt from other gold-armored ancient gods. It has been rather long since a bloodline of such high level as yours has awoken, Elder Ying said to Jian Wushuang with her eyes sparkling. After a long silence, she let out a sigh of relief and turned to her clansmen. The baptism is ended and all of you can go back now. Yes, Elder Ying. The clansmen all headed back after shooting Jian Wushuang a glance. Soon, there was only Jian Wushuang with Elder Ying. Jian Wushuang, I want to show you something, follow me. She finally spoke again. Yes, Elder Ying. Without hesitation, Jian Wushuang followed her. They left the valley and then the clan. Eternal Zone was a vast land. The ancient god clan and the wild beasts each controlled half of it. Where the two territories met was the holy place of the ancient god clan, and the place had been closed since the clan lost the ancestors' trace. During those long years, no one had gotten in or out of the place. Elder Ying led Jian Wushuang to a giant mountain near the holy place, and there was a wide path leading to its peak. Walking along the path, Jian Wushuang quickly reached the peak. What's this? He was immediately attracted by a scene in front of him. It was a group of ancient and huge palaces. Between him and the palaces was a giant stone, on which 3 words were engraved, Ancient God Palace. Ancient God Palace. Jian Wushuang frowned. He had been in the Eternal Zone for more than 80 years, and yet he had never heard of the palace before. Elder Ying, what are those palaces? Ancient God Palace is the core place of our clan and also a place where our top experts are gathered. Elder Ying started explaining. This palace contains the most important and ancient 3 secret skills of our clan. Those skills are our foundation. There are over 1 million people in our 10 tribes, and only the top ones or the gold-armored ancient gods can enter this palace to study the 3 skills. The 3 secret skills? Jian Wushuang was excited. Back when he was studying the Star River secret skill, Jiyu Changfeng had told him that there were 2 other secret skills in their clan apart from the one he was working on. At that time, he had only been able to learn the first 11 levels of the Star River secret skill and was not up to the rest of the levels and the other 2 secret skills. Jiyu Changfeng had also told him that only gold-armored ancient gods could practice those skills. However, now, from Elder Ying's words, He finally knew that not only gold-armored ancient gods but also top experts could practice them. Jian Wushuang. Elder Ying looked towards him and spoke again. You have awoken a strong bloodline and even have dark golden skin on your chest. That's why I brought you here. Let me show you in. Thanks, Elder Ying. Jian Wushuang nodded. He could not wait to see the other levels of the Star River secret skill and the other 2 secret skills with his own eyes. Following Elder Ying, he entered the palace, and in the hallway, he saw some people with terrifying power. The first person he caught sight of was a bald man. The man saw him as well and grinned at him, which, however, made his hair stand on end. He could tell that the man was powerful enough to kill him with one strike. Besides the man, the others he saw along the way all made him feel fear. Those people are as powerful as 2-star ancient gods, and their battle strength have to be amazingly strong. He thought. In fact, he had met many Eternal Realm experts in the Firmament territory before, and those experts in the 3 magnates and the top sects numbered 100. Nevertheless, except for his master Xianxia, none of them terrified him as much as these men he saw here. He even suspected that each expert in that palace could kill a group of Eternal Realm experts outside by themselves. Is this the main power of the ancient god clan? Jian Wushuang was stunned inside. Though he had seen some 2-star ancient gods in the 10 tribes earlier, he had not been able to set eyes on the really powerful ones until this moment, for these experts remained in the palace all the time. Chapter 738. Imperial Kinsman. Following Elder Ying, Jian Wushuang soon arrived at the core place of the Palacia huge black pavilion. On the stairs in front of him, he saw a weathered elder sit with his legs crossed and eyes closed. If someone observed the elder just by looking, he would think that this man was not breathing and was dead, but if he closed his eyes and tried hard to feel the elder's aura, he would know that the elder was alive. Elder Yi. Elder Ying bowed to the elder respectfully. The elder heard the voice and opened his eyes. As the elder's eyes fell on Jian Wushuang, the latter immediately felt his mind go blank. For a moment, Jian Wushuang felt as if he was frozen inside out. What's wrong with me? He could not help being afraid. 3-star ancient god. This elder must be a 3-star ancient god, as powerful as a Tao master. Jian Wushuang's eyes were widely opened. This was the first time that he had seen such a supreme expert. Although the elder was an ancient god, not a human being, Jian Wushuang knew that the elder was no weaker than a human Tao master and might be even stronger. He was so thrilled that such a powerful god was now sitting before his eyes. How could this boy's bloodline be even stronger than mine? The elder was surprised after staring at Jian Wushuang, and he immediately asked, "Boy, who are you?" He looked impassive, his piercing eyes fixed on Jian Wushuang as if he wanted to see through him. Being watched by such a pair of intense eyes, Jian Wushuang felt timid, but he was experienced, so he managed to remain calm while replying, "I'm Jian Wushuang." Jian Wushuang. On hearing the answer, the elder narrowed his eyes. Elder Yi, this boy is a descendant of militant warriors. A few days ago, he accepted a baptism in the baptismal pool with our clansmen and didn't get out until 7 days and 6 nights later. Elder Ying chimed in. 7 days and 6 nights. Elder Ji had a surprised look on his face upon hearing the words. Normally, staying in the baptismal pool for 2 days and 2 nights would be enough to awake the bloodline of a gold-armored ancient god. At that moment, Elder Ying continued, "More than that, the gold-armored ancient god he transformed into was about 15 meters tall and had dark gold skin on his chest while the skin of other parts was pure gold." Dark gold. On hearing this, Elder Yi suddenly rose up to his feet and watched Jian Wushuang closely while shouting, "You just said that the gold-armored ancient god this boy transformed into was about 15 meters tall and had dark gold skin on his chest?" "Yes." Elder Ying nodded. Elder Yi was vacant-eyed with astonishment, murmuring, "Dark gold ancient god. Imperial bloodline. Imperial bloodline." When Elder Ying heard the 2 words, she was dumbfounded. Jian Wushuang was, however, confused. What does imperial bloodline mean? Is he talking about me? There are only copper-armored ancient gods, silver-armored ancient gods, and gold-armored ancient gods, aren't there? Lost in confusion, Jian Wushuang suddenly heard Elder Yi speak to him. Jian Wushuang, transform into an ancient god now.
Yes, Elder. Jian Wushuang nodded.
There was a burst of bloodline power inside Jian Wushuang unleashed with his will, and his body began to bulge. In just a moment, he had become a gold-armored ancient god about 15 meters tall, and surely, the skin on his chest was dark gold. It's indeed dark gold. Elder Yi stared at Jian Wushuang for a good while. His bloodline is so pure with an overpowering oppressing force. Even I shiver under it. He does have an imperial bloodline. Though only being a small part, those with imperial bloodline are nobler than us. So many years have passed and finally, we have another man with an imperial bloodline in our clan.
Ha ha.
Elder Yi laughed loudly with joy and excitement. Jian Wushuang and Elder Ying were puzzled at the sudden laughter. Elder Ying was not among those seniors of the clan, thus, she did not know some secrets about the clan, such as the imperial bloodline. A noble with imperial bloodline has appeared again. Why are you old guys still staying inside? Elder Yi suddenly turned back and shouted at the palace. His voice echoed throughout the whole place, however, only a few people in the palace could hear it. Those people were the ones who had lived for a really long time in the clan.
Imperial bloodline?
The direct descendant of His Majesty has finally appeared. As another loud voice echoed from the underground, the ground where Jian Wushuang stood on started shaking wildly.
What's going on?
Jian Wushuang was startled and looked around. Seeing the sudden change, the clansmen inside the palace were also amazed. Right then, the ground was cracked open from its center, and from inside stretched out a huge palm. Then, a giant figure climbed out, who tore the ground apart like tearing a coffin that buried him. It was a gold-armored ancient god dozens of meters tall, gleaming with golden light. The god stood towering like a giant mountain, stunning the onlookers just based on visual impact. How tall and strong it is!
Jian Wushuang was amazed.
It is a human being. The giant figure stretched himself after turning up, making a thundering sound. The next moment, the figure began shrinking and finally turned into a middle-aged man about 2 meters tall, who rushed towards the black pavilion, approaching Jian Wushuang. Chapter 739. Secret. There was a towering mountain outside the ancient god palace. It existed for a long, long time in the Eternal Zone. The clansmen from the ancient god clan occasionally passed by this mountain when they went hunting. At this moment, imperial bloodline. The resonant sound echoed through the mountain, causing it to convulse. Crack! A huge crack suddenly appeared on the mountain wall, followed by the mountain splitting in two as if it had been parted by someone. In the blink of an eye, a 1,000-foot-tall gold-armored ancient god stepped out of the mountain. At the same time, a giant figure flew out of the lake in the Eternal Zone. A stone-faced young man walked out of a mansion. In the depths of the boundless wasteland, a gold-armored ancient god dashed forward at amazing speed while ignoring the beasts on his way. The weathered Elder Yi, had sent out the messages in a special way. Those old monsters who had been living in seclusion all came out. Shortly after, they all appeared in front of a black pavilion in the ancient god palace and fixed their eyes on Jian Wushuang, who was also looking at these ancient gods in shock. Along with Elder Yi, the other 8 ancient gods all had human appearances. Regardless of their gender or age, they all had one thing in common: they were all 3-star ancient gods. 9 3-star ancient gods.
Jian Wushuang gasped.
A 2-star ancient god was comparable to a Dao master. There were 4 Dao masters in the entire firmament territory, the masters of the 3 magnates and the sect master of the ancient sect. Although the ancient sect had another 3 Dao masters, they had already left the firmament territory. The 9 ancient gods were looking at Jian Wushuang in admiration. Imperial bloodline. He really has the imperial bloodline. Although it's just a small part of the imperial bloodline, that's enough. Ha ha, many years have passed. We finally have an imperial bloodline clansman, but he is not strong. He has just awakened his bloodline, so it's natural that he is still weak. It won't take long for him to meet the requirement. Things are getting better. The 9 3-star ancient gods were in a heated discussion, looking surprised and delighted. Everyone, The other three-star ancient gods stopped talking and nodded slightly after hearing Elder Yi's voice. Okay, since you don't have any questions, then I'll explain it to the young boy, Elder Yi said. Okay, then we'll all go to make some preparations. The other 8 three-star ancient gods could not help casting a fervent glance at Jian Wushuang before they left. Jian Wushuang felt that it was very strange. Boy, your name is Jian Wushuang, right? Elder Yi looked over at the boy with a kind expression, then said, I guess you're very confused now, right? Right. Jian Wushuang nodded unconsciously. What had happened just now puzzled him, as well as Granny Ying. They had no idea about the imperial bloodline, so it was not clear to them why the three-star ancient gods were over the moon after receiving the news that Jian Wushuang had a part of the imperial bloodline. It's normal that you're confused about it. After all, in the entire clan, only we old guys know the secret. Elder Yi sighed and started to explain. As we all know, our ancestor was an ancient god who was strong enough to destroy the world. And actually, it's inappropriate to call him the ancient god. He is our king. King. Jian Wushuang was surprised. Right, he was a dark gold ancient god, the highest level, while the other ancient gods were his subordinates, who served him and followed his orders. Elder Yi continued, we're not his descendants, but his subordinates' descendants. Many years ago, the king suddenly disappeared and the holy place closed, so many of his subordinates there became isolated from us. Over the past years, we've tried to enter the holy place. As long as we're able to enter the holy place, we can find out the reason why the king was missing and why the holy place was closed. But the formation there was too powerful, and even though all the three-star ancient gods worked together, we were still unable to break it. It's impossible to enter it with strength alone, so we have to turn to people who possess the imperial bloodline. It's a pity that our king had no lineal descendants. We've lived in this world for a long, long time. Our bloodline has become weaker and weaker, let alone have we fostered the imperial bloodline, so we've all felt hopeless. But now, you've given us a glimmer of hope. Because, you have part of the imperial bloodline. Upon hearing this, Jian Wushuang finally understood. The imperial bloodline could help them unseal the holy place so that they could solve the riddles, which was of the greatest importance to the ancient god clan. Elder Yi, you want me to break the seal of the holy place? Jian Wushuang asked. Right. Elder Yi nodded. But you've just awakened your bloodline, so you're too weak to break the seal. You need some time to grow up. When you become a 2-star ancient god, you might be able to succeed. Chapter 740. The 3 Secret Skills of the Ancient God Clan. 2-star ancient god. Jian Wushuang wore a wry smile. He had just awakened the bloodline and become a 1-star ancient god, so he was far from being a 2-star ancient god. Little Ying. Elder Yi addressed Granny Ying. Granny Ying was a highly respected ancient god in the 8th tribe, but in front of Elder Yi, she became Little Ying. Obviously, Elder Yi had lived longer than Granny Ying. You brought the boy here for the 3 secret skills, right? Elder Yi asked. Granny Ying nodded, saying, that's right. The 3 secret skills are the greatest foundation for our clan. Jian Wushuang, go and do some good cultivation, Elder Yi responded while waving his hand. Then the gate of the black pavilion opened. Jian Wushuang, go for it, Granny Ying said. Jian Wushuang walked inside without hesitation. Inside, there was an open space with 3 stone tablets in the center. Each of the stone tablets was 30 feet tall, black, and made from some special ore. Many small, tightly packed characters were carved on them. Each of the stone tablets had a secret skill recorded onto them. Jian Wushuang went over to the first stone tablet engraved with the Scarlet Eye secret skill. The Scarlet Eye secret skill helps you see through reality and illusions. If someone reaches its limit, everything will be exposed to him under the Scarlet Eye. Jian Wushuang was shocked by its brief introduction. See through reality and illusions? Everything will be exposed to him under the Scarlet Eye. This was a great secret skill. Jian Wushuang continued and looked at the second secret skill. The 3 secret skills were Scarlet Eye, Star River, and Mind Controlling. The Scarlet Eye secret skill was rare. The last 2 secret skills were used for attacking. He had mastered the first 3 levels of the Star River secret skill and improved his offensive power by 9 times. He had only seen the manuals of the first 11 levels of the Star River secret skill when he was in the 8th tribe. But now, faced with the complete manual of the Star River secret skill, Jian Wushuang was rocked. 34 levels. Jian Wushuang widened his eyes, staring at the second stone tablet. The Star River secret skill actually had 34 levels. What he had seen in the 8th tribe was less than 1/3 of the complete secret skill. Each level of the Star River secret skill is able to improve my offensive power by 3 times. Now I've just reached level 3, so my offensive power became 9 times greater than before. If I reach level 11, my offensive power will improve by 33 times. However, level 11 is not the limit. If I reach level 34, my offensive power will gain a 100-fold increase. 100-fold increase. 100-fold offensive power. The secret skills in the Firmament territory often helped improve offensive power by 10 times at the most. For human warriors, 10 times was their limit. When he saw the first 11 levels of the Star River secret skill, Jian Wushuang was totally stupefied. And now he was even more shocked. It can actually help me obtain a 100-fold offensive power. This. Jian Wushuang was at a loss for words. Aided by the secret skill, the Firmament territory experts were only able to improve their offensive power by, at most, 10 times, while the ancient gods could get a 100-fold power increase if they reached the peak of the Star River secret skill. Powerful. Terrifying. This was the formidable ancient god clan. The mind-controlling secret skill was targeted at the opponent's consciousness and soul. If someone reached the elementary level, he was capable of attacking one's consciousness. Unlike the 18 levels of hell, which could pose a threat to one's consciousness and stop his consciousness for a short moment, the mind-controlling secret skill was used to attack one's consciousness and make him tingle or confused. If someone were to reach the supreme level, he would be able to attack one's soul, which was strange and terrifying. Each of the secret skills is amazing. Jian Wushuang could not hold back his praise. The demon gods were already more powerful. Now, aided by the 3 secret skills, they would be invincible. Clansmen who have awakened the demon god bloodline are qualified to practice the 3 secret skills. The better bloodline a demon god possesses, the higher level he will reach. I'm a gold-armored ancient god and have a part of the imperial bloodline, so I'm able to cultivate it, but I don't know how far I can go, Jian Wushuang murmured. Then, he sat down with his legs crossed as he started to meditate on the Scarlet Eye secret skill, which helped see through reality and illusions. As Jian Wushuang was meditating on the secret skill, Granny Ying was still standing outside with respect. Each of our 3 secret skills is profound. Although the boy has a part of the imperial bloodline, it's impossible for him to master all of them in a short period of time. Little Ying, there's no need to wait here. Go back to the tribe. And remember, don't talk to anyone about the boy's imperial bloodline and our clan's secret. Okay. Granny Ying nodded and then left. Elder Yi sat cross-legged in front of the black pavilion. The boy has a part of the imperial bloodline, so it's easy for him to master the River Star secret skill. But to practice the last 2 skills requires a superior understanding. I wonder how long he will meet the requirement for the 2 skills, Elder Yi said quietly. Then, he closed his eyes.